he's very active. All right, he's slithery. He can bend. He's explosive, quick first step. He's very crafty, man. He's a master of his craft, man. His hands, his bend, and then his motor. I mean, he just doesn't quit. And so he's disruptive in the run game, and the pass game is not only what you see off the edge or his ability to pressure the quarterback, but it's getting the football out too. It's one thing to get a sack on a guy, but he's getting the ball out if he gets around the horn. So this will be a big challenge. Really for our O-line in general, because this guy moves around now. He's not going to just be left. He's not going to be right. Third down, they're going to move him around. All of them got to be ready for him. But more times than not, he'll be on Sewell and Decker. And so, those guys are up for the challenge, and that makes you feel a ton better knowing the guys that we got. But this is going to be a war now. This guy he really is. This is the most disruptive defensive player we've played all year to this point. So, we got to be ready.
Poor guy. I mean, he's going through something.
Yeah,
I don't know what
that is sad.
I don't know what he's going through. But regardless, now it's just Max Crosby.
Oh, yeah.
And the question I have for everybody is, it's not even really has to do with Max, but it's about the Raiders in general. This team offensively, and I don't give a damn who's at quarterback. JB could be out there. They have not scored under 20. You could put Jimmy G out there, Aiden O'Connell out there, Brian Hoyer out there. They've scored over 20 one time.
Ooh.
That's the offense you're dealing with. And that's, of course, against the Bears defense. They played the Bears. So it's not like they're playing these elite defenses that just contain Josh McDaniels' offense. No. Josh McDaniels is just bad. And he's just that guy that keeps just floating around, ain't he? Like, Josh McDaniels, he can lose every game in the regular season, be fired, go be an OC, and he'll still pop up somewhere.
What were we comparing him to yesterday? The Sean Clifford of the NFL?
Oh, yeah.
Sean Clifford.
No, that's what Lucas is like. We're trying to think of an example. And he's like, we're like Josh McDaniels. I'm like, well, if Josh was like 40 years older, yeah, it's just the mid of mid. You know what I mean? But
the bottom of the barrel.
But at least Sean Clifford has playoff appearances. Or Steve Clifford. Excuse me.
Yeah, Sean Clifford's old.
Steve. Now you got me. Excuse me. Steve Clifford, the head coach of the Charlotte Hornets.
That's not bad.
Who was formerly the head coach of the Magic. Yeah, he's the guy that's just like you're guaranteeing an 8 seed. Like that's what his ceiling is.
And that's it.
Yeah,
you're not getting a series win.
And look at this. Brandon Katz, it's a bad take by Jeff. The reason the Raiders' offense is bad is because of Garoppolo, not McDaniels. Well, little do you know, Brandon, they've had 3 quarterbacks start this year, so you're wrong. It is because of Josh McDaniels. That offense is inept. It's bad. I mean, Josh Jacobs is having his worst year.
Oh, he's terrible.
I mean, it's bad. They can't
not
run
all his fault, but he's terrible.
Devontae fucking Adams, dude. Devontae Adams could account for 7 points each game by themselves if you weren't trying to feed Jacoby Myers every week.
Yeah, and of course, like you could keep bringing up, they're all bad quarter. I don't give a damn who it is. Like I don't. Josh, that offense with whoever's at quarterback. If you want to blame the quarterback, you want to blame Josh McDaniels. If you're in the Josh McDaniels fan club, then stay in there. Regardless, this offense is bad.
Yeah.
And this should be Sam. And I don't want to go. I want to make sure I don't want to overreact too much. But if the Lions don't beat this team by 2 touchdowns, I'll be shocked. Like they have to take care of this team is bad.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Bears beat them, I believe, by 8.
18.
18?
They beat him by 18. It was 30-12.
30?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Lions got to beat them by 2 scores.
Yeah.
They're at home, 2 of them prime time. Take care of this team.
I mean, obviously, the most important thing you want to do is win. And to Brandon Katz's point about Jimmy Garoppolo, it doesn't help Josh McDaniels that he does have a Jimmy Garoppolo who, when he's on the field, he's a bum, but he can't ever even stay on the field. And then your backups are rookie Aiden O'Connell and 50-year-old Brian Hoyer, who's been in the NFL, it seems like, forever. So that's not a good start for an offense when you got Josh McDaniels and then Jimmy Garoppolo and whoever Jimmy Garoppolo's backups are. Because if you can't start over Jimmy Garoppolo, that's a problem. But anywho, the Raiders are a very interesting team to me because you would think just by watching them and kind of seeing what they've done that there's pieces of evidence that could suggest that they could be better, but also pieces of evidence that could suggest that they're lucky to be 3-4. Because the Raiders, you very rarely see a bottom feeder. I mean, technically they're not a bottom feeder, the Broncos are, but still a bad team that you could argue here's the thing. The Raiders are 3-4. The Lions are 5-2. The Raiders probably have the two best players in the game in that particular matchup in Max Crosby and Davante Adams. I mean, Max Crosby, like Dan Campbell was saying, you can't say enough good things about Crosby. This season, he has taken that step into being arguably the best edge rusher in the NFL. 6.5 sacks, 43 pressures. That is absolutely insane. 9 tackles for loss and 9 QB hits. And when we talk about Aiden Hutchinson having no help, at least Aiden Hutchinson has a guy like Aleem McNeil. Max Crosby has no help. You've got
read the names.
Yes,
these are so bad.
You've got rookie Tyree Wilson. You've got Jerry Tillery. You've got Adam Butler.
Jerry Tillery,
Adam Butler. I mean, and like I said before, the second leading sacker on the team has 1. And a bunch of people are tied with it, but still, it's Max Crosby and then the rest. And the fact that he gets doubled so much and still puts up those numbers is insane. And of course, Davante Adams. Davante Adams has been, over the last 3 years, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. The last 2 years, he's had over 1,500 yards and over 10 touchdowns in both years. And in 2020, he led the NFL in receiving yards per game, and he had 18 touchdown catches, 43 in the prior 3 seasons prior to this year. And even this season when Davante Adams is having a down year, not his fault, by the way, he's still on pace for 1,282 yards. And the Raiders are 3-4. So they have some pieces. But then you look at people who you thought were going to be pieces. The guy who led the NFL in rushing yards last year, Josh Jacobs, has been not all his fault, but awful. He's averaging 2.9 yards per carry. And the Lions, as we know, are very good at stopping the run. And also, when it comes to the Raiders' offense, they literally do nothing well. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So this is the type of game that I think would be a nice get-right for the Lions' defense, who was, I don't want to necessarily say exposed, but you know what? They kind of were exposed. I would say it's gut check time, if that makes sense.
For the Raiders?
For the Lions.
Oh,
For the Lions. It's gut check time for the Lions because they gave up 38 to the Ravens, and now you get an offense with the Raiders that has been absolutely terrible this year. I mean, I can read all the numbers. They are third to last in scoring offense. Third to last.
Well, hold on.
Yes.
As you go through that, Lucas, I just gave you
Yes.
the comparison between both teams, but
Yes.
continue. Sorry.
Yes.
Just so people can get a visual context.
Third to last in scoring offense, last in rushing yards per game, bottom half in passing yards per game, and 6th worst in yards per game.
Yep.
That offense doesn't do anything well. Even with Davante Adams, even with Josh Jacobs, they do nothing well.
And they have individual players, right? Like
Yes.
Davante Adams, we know
Yes.
how damn good he is. Top 2, typically not 2. He's usually
Yeah.
that guy every single year, but having a down year. Look at the stat, though, for both teams comparing. I'm going to bring this back up Monday and, of course, on the pregame show, and this is per Tim Twentyman. Shout out to him for this, because it really does put things into context. I mean, look at the offense for the Lions and Raiders. You have the 8th offense in points scored, or points per game, excuse me, and then you have the 30th ranked points per game offense with the Raiders, 16th. So, look at the total yards. I mean, 284, that's 27th. The Lions, 377, that's 4th. Now, a lot of that was with David Montgomery, so we have to learn that his absence will have a little bit of a factor, especially I think on the rushing offense, unless Jameer can have a big game, which maybe he can. But you look at what the Raiders are doing, excuse me, defensively, they allow 130 yards per game on the ground, 24th. So with this offensive line against that Raiders defensive line, that besides Max Crosby, I think guys that are either not hitting their peak or not who they typically are on a year-to-year basis. Like, Tyree Wilson, we'll see what he can do. He's been a little bit of a disappointment, but who knows? Maybe he can get better. Jerry Tillery, the former, I believe, the Chargers defensive lineman who they traded away, former, I think, first-round pick as well. Like, a lot of guys that, okay, on paper, not too bad, but you see it, the numbers here. Like, this team, the only, statistic offensively that they're even past 20 in is passing offense. And it's because they're down. They're down a lot of the games. So they're 215, it ranks 18th. But this offense, man, it is bad.
Yeah.
And we've been seeing this with the Lions all year, facing quarterbacks that aren't as good or quarterbacks that you typically don't look in and respect them. I mean, you have Desmond Ridder, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield. The Lions have taken care of those guys. I think they could take care of Jimmy Garoppolo, having arguably the worst season of his career.
Oh, yeah.
With a back injury.
I mean, I know a lot of people don't like this because they see what the 49ers were doing with Jimmy Garoppolo, but it obviously wasn't because of Jimmy G. To me, you can lump him right in with some of the bad quarterbacks that the Lions have already played. Guys like Jordan Love, guys like Desmond Ridder, guys like rookie Bryce Young, guys like, who am I forgetting? I almost forgot. Baker Mayfield, for example. He's one of them. That's all Jimmy Garoppolo is right now. And it honestly, as much as I guess maybe I'm a bad person, but it kind of gives me pleasure to see Jimmy Garoppolo struggle with the Raiders because nobody has lived a more charmed life than Jimmy Garoppolo.
That is true. He's probably one of the luckiest quarterbacks in NFL history with the systems he's been in.
People get to call him a winner, which is the most ridiculous thing that has ever been. That's the most ridiculous thing that has ever been conjured up in the history of humankind. And I never missed the opportunity to remind that Jimmy Garoppolo once won a playoff game while completing 6 passes and won another playoff game while leading his offense to a whopping 6 points.
Yeah.
So I hate Jimmy Garoppolo so much.
The only thing, I guess, the matchup that I'm most intrigued by, or not even like intrigued by, but I'm paying attention to the most is this secondary with Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams. Even though Jimmy G is what he is, but that's really, I mean, the run defense, I believe in what the Lions are as a run defense. I think they've been solid, and even last week against the Ravens. I don't think it'll happen again, especially against the Raiders. But man, they got pretty good wideouts over there. I mean, you got Hunter Renfrow, Jacoby Myers, and of course Devontae Adams. We'll see. I mean, that's probably the only matchup that I'm like curious about. You got Jerry coming off that knee injury; he's back in the lineup. But other than that, I'm pretty confident as the Lions, they have the advantage in every single matchup.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there isn't another matchup I can think of.
I mean, even when you look at the Raiders defensively as well, they don't do a ton well. I mean, they do stop the pass. I don't know what that really means. But still, you have to give them credit for that because when you accumulate those numbers over a 7-game sample size, you got to give them some credit. But, yeah, if there's one matchup I guess I'm looking forward to seeing, it's Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams against the Lions secondary with Jerry Jacobs coming back from injury because that is where the Raiders can hurt you. But who's throwing them the ball? That's the thing. If they had a competent quarterback, if they even had just not moved on from Derek Carr, I think they'd be better.
And we could talk all day about who they should acquire, like defensive linemen that we talk about. Hey, you need some more help for Aiden. Regardless of that conversation, the Lions still lead the league in pressures, according to PFF. So, that's just a statistic. That's just a fact. They have 159 pressures on the season, one more than the Ravens. So, for all the people that are worried about this defensive line, like against the Raiders, you should be okay. I'm more concerned about, you're talking Philly, the 49ers, teams that have pretty good offensive lines, but the Raiders, to me, they don't have it. So they should be okay this week. I'm not too concerned. Let's go to break. When we get back, we'll get into our quarterback rankings. Me, Sam, and Lucas will show our top 10 quarterbacks. Chat will react to them because we saw that bogus 33rd team. Love what they do, but that list was bogus and where they ranked quarterbacks. We'll give you the morning Woodward Show quarterback rankings when we come back. But